please join me with some virtual applause in welcoming Kevin to the virtual stage.
Hello, everybody, and thanks, Beck, very much for that introduction. And really great to see you all here today. It's wonderful. Some of you have come back, and I really like that idea, and some of you are new. So this is all wonderful. And I'm going to work through this rather rapidly. So we will be getting through quite a bit and some stories and also some ways forward. So, we talked about the terrain, and this will be a different terrain, which is really talking about opportunities, and opportunities don't knock, but they move. So they are part of the mobility, which is the nomadic mindset. And before we get into it all completely, I would like to have us watch a little video. And so that video is such, and you can turn up your your mic, and you'll be much better. It's a bit low.
What do you see here? Saeed Zaki, a proud Berber nomad from southern Morocco, says Berbers see everything as an opportunity. That includes this desert. It is filled with opportunity. He also says Berbers modulate their lives to the sand. The sand is always moving, and we are often moving into uncharted territories in ever-evolving and changing new environments. Because of this, we need to adapt and flow with the movement while remaining still, alert, always listening and observing the signposts along the way. This is the inner GPS of the nomad. These signposts, just like the sand, create opportunities and appear in different shapes, forms, and sizes. Sometimes we are blind to the smallest and perhaps the most important signposts. Nomads know these signposts will lead them to their destination. Listen, observe, take action. To understand, observe, and experience new opportunities in your life, work, creativity, conversations, negotiations, building networks, and more, you need to tap into your nomadic mindset. Are you ready to seek new opportunities? Your moment is now. The Nomadic Mindset Uncover.
I'd like to invite you to put in one word, that points out to you what was that video about. Anything? I'd like you to just tap in a word, and we can signposts, opportunities. Yes, Radha. Fantastic. Change, challenge. Absolutely. All of these are great words. Fantastic. Observe and adapt, right? Observe and adapt. And inner guidance. Love it, Deepti. Fantastic. Okay, great. Wonderful. All right. So what has happened in this particular aspect of this is that we are looking at a variety of different issues that are happening today. There's a lot of uncertainty, as we all know, and uncertainty is really one of the most heaviest things that we might feel. But here's a way forward, and I want to share with you that I like you to think of this question as you go through today, but also afterwards as well. And that is, what's the opportunity? So, for example, it might be, what is the opportunity for you to come here today? What is the opportunity for you to meet all these different people? What is the opportunity? Instead of looking at what's in it for me, but what is the opportunity brings a very different way of looking at it. So opportunity in this particular world, an opportunity, it moves fast. And then it's mobility. Mobility is about opportunity as well, and it keeps you ready. And we need to follow the signpost. And the signpost is, are you ready to move and seek opportunities? This is something that will help you along today. Are you ready? And if you drop it into the chat, then we're going to get to see whether you're ready to go, and then we'll continue on. Yes, okay, great. Ready, 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 ready. Okay, super. All righty. So we will be continuing on, but I want to ask a question now. And there's 3 questions. And on a scale of 1 to 10, I would like you to put into the chat. And 1 is equal to absolutely disagree. 10 is absolutely agree. So the first question is, the world feels increasingly uncertain and disruptive. I'd like you to put into the chat what between 1 and 10. 10, 9, 10. Yes, 8, 7. Fantastic. Okay, great. We are on the same page here. All right, second, this uncertainty is affecting how I think, act, and perform. 1 to 10 in the chat, please. Let's see. 8, 8, 6, 8. Great. Okay, super, super, super. So it has a little bit effect, perhaps. All right, number 3, uncertainty is reducing my ability to notice or act on new opportunities. Wow, 10. Okay, 1. Daniel. All right, great. So some are observing opportunities as this is a way forward. And so that is fantastic to see. All right. Let us move forward because now we're into the right place, all of us thinking about this. And what I want to say about this terrain in your map is that we need to look at your superpower mindset, which is the nomadic mindset, which can help you to move through this uncertainty as we move forward. And in that, we can look at different ways of moving and what does opportunity mean. So what we're going to do today is on this journey, we're going to discover how mobility unlocks opportunity through the nomadic mindset. We're going to learn to activate your senses to spot the signposts of opportunity. And then also we are going to, I'm always doing something here. And we are going to look at, why is this doing this? You know, I'm always doing something here. What is it? Oh, there we go. Gone. All right. And develop intentional curiosity, because intentional curiosity is extremely important. And so that we can really focus our abilities in that opportunity. What is it really bringing to us? And then there's some questions and answers at the end. And I dare you, as I say along in each one of these episodes, as I dare you to move and to seek this time. So let us do that. Let us move forward. But what you will take from this? But first of all, in a post that I wrote, following what feels alive, that's what the post was about. And somebody wrote, Sita wrote, following what feels alive takes courage, which it does, especially when the world expects certainty. And certainty is not really what we have on an ongoing basis. But that's often where the most meaningful paths are. And I would agree to that. That's the learning space. That's the growing space. This is what you will take away. Some new opportunities by looking at unlock opportunities by shifting how you move and lead through these uncertainties. Awaken your senses to spot the hidden signposts that spark transformation. Empower your decisions through intentional curiosity. And the best way to do this, I believe, is always starting from the meaning. As you know from the past 2 episodes, I love etymology and the origins of words, and they give us a lot of power. And the word opportunity, I love this word, and I've been using it a lot in my coaching, and it's been very, very helpful for people to look at things from a different perspective. Opportunity is made up of 3 different words here: op, port, unity. And it comes from, the Latin is op portum veniens, which it means coming toward a port, or a gentle wind blowing towards a port. And a port is equal to gate or door. So this is a really beautiful way to look at it. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I saw that it was a gentle wind blowing towards a port, I thought, wow, this is so poetic. It's very beautiful, but it's also very metaphoric because it is mobility. It is about movement forward, not necessarily moving backwards. And let me share with you just a little story around this. I had a coaching client at the European Union, and he worked in one of the agencies, which was to do with shipping and also security. And he came to me because he was very curious about what is the nomadic mindset, and he wanted to have more of a nomadic mindset in his life because it had become too stuck, too comfortable. And at one time, we started to talk about opportunity because he was looking at the variety of his team, and we could find that he was not really progressing very well with his team, and he was very shy with his team. And how could he therefore see it differently? So we talked about opportunity, and then he brought the beautiful metaphor because he's in shipping. He said, "Oh my God, I'm in shipping support. I understand this. So we allow ships to go through the water to a destination." But he says, as a nomadic would, if there is some sort of terrorist or some sort of problems or the port is blocked, for example, we need to be able to be adaptable. We need to be able to move. And so he took the whole work of what we did in our coaching around the nomadic mindset and opportunity, and he shifted it into the work that he was doing. And I was very grateful to hear how this had transformed him. And so it can be very transformative is to understand this is a movement. It's movement, movement, movement. Now, let's move. But one of the ways that you see the signposts so that you can see is your senses. So I would like to ask you a few questions, and I would like you to answer by 1 or 2 words and put it into the chat box. I would say that the majority of people, and especially when I look around here in Singapore and a variety of other places that I go, they're disconnected from their senses. And this doesn't help us grow individually, and it doesn't allow us to see opportunity and possibilities in our life, the way we look at our work, our families, the way we look at our teams, and of course, organizations. So I would like to just ask these questions. The first question is, what do you see in this picture? And I'd like you to write down in the chat, what is it you see? And so I would love to hear it. Cloud, space, blue sky. Okay, great. Open horizon. Wonderful. Limitless horizon. There's that Tim. Limitless. Wonderful. Sea, meeting through. Fantastic. All right. The second question I want to ask you is, if you were to hear, what would you hear when you see this picture? What would you hear maybe if you were in this place? Mm. Woo, 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 woo. Fantastic. Water, waves, waves crashing and seagulls. That's right. Be as expressive as you can. Roaring waves. Beautiful. My heart beating. Ah, I love it. The ocean. All right. The next is, what might you taste? The taste of something. What would you taste? Wonderful. Wind, water, birds. Salty air. Fantastic. Salt, fresh. Water and smell. Wow, this is great. Salt in the air and pleasure. Balinese breakfast. Love it. Fantastic. Wonderful. All right. Now, but what if you were to smell? What would you smell? Salt in the air. What might you smell when you see this picture? Using that sense of yours. The smell of the sea. Smell of the sea foam. Love it. Sea and sand. The sandy smell makes one to build a sandcastle. I love it. Playfulness. Salt, sand, seagulls. Fantastic. How wonderful. Okay, great. Now, I would like to know how you would make you feel. How would it make you feel? Organic nature life. Free. Free. Oh, I love it. The freedom of being a nomad, relaxed, space. Beautiful. Thank you, Wouter. Free, connected with nature, freedom, feeling less stressed. Oh, these are wonderful. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. So we go into the sixth sense. Now that's your intuition. And what is your intuition sharing then about the opportunity in this picture? What is your intuition sharing with you and telling you about the opportunity for you and for others, perhaps, in this picture? Limitless. Wonderful. Intuition. Endless. Opportunity to let go. I love it. Peace in each moment. Clutter-free, with focus, relaxation, flow, peace. Fantastic. Oh, wonderful. I love it. Absolutely love it. Oh, this is great. So now you have piqued a few of your senses. Now the senses are helping you to then see signposts. And now let us move to the next stage of this. Let me share with you a little story. So when I was doing a work for Club Med in Kuantan, Malaysia, and I was doing a introductory coaching facilitation for the leaders and trainers at the Club Med. And there happened to be a fellow by the name of Saeed Zaki there. And Saeed Zaki is a Berber nomad, that is his origin. And I was excited, very, very excited, because I was starting to do my research for the nomadic mindset. So I sat down and had a wonderful conversation with him. And what I came from it was very much interested me was he said, Berbers see everything as an opportunity, even the sand, even the desert, even the wind. And he said that many people may feel that the desert is barren and unforgiving. And he said, this is exactly the point. It is about perspective, choices, and strategies. He said the nomads, they see the signposts in the desert. They see experiences, opportunities, and nature as it's transforming and transitioning and evolving. And I thought this was really great, magical about how he sees the desert and how it has such richness for us. So this became a very exciting part for me to think about. How do we see, how do we experience, how do we transform, and how do we look at not only our clients and our own lives, but our teams, and where is the opportunity within organizations? So I had another story which I'd like to share with you, which shares about signposts and opportunities. So December 2007, I found myself in the Brussels Central train station. And it was rather chilly at this particular time, and I was to meet the head of Holiday on Ice. And he contacted me and he said, I would like to have a meeting with you. I will be going from Paris to Amsterdam, and I will stop and we can meet at the train station and have a meeting. So we did. We sat in a cafe and we had a wonderful conversation catching up, because I had done a show in 1988 called Exotica Journey to the Heart. And he happened to be the head of the Holiday on Ice at that time as well. And he loved the show, he said. And so he wanted to connect with me and ask me to do the next show, which was in 2008. And at this time, I had left skating in 8 years. And I thought, my God, I don't know if I can do this again, because I don't even know how. I haven't had skates on in 8 years. How can I do this? I was now as a leadership coach, actually, at the European Union. I was doing trainings and I was doing speaking at the same time. And my trainings were in energy management. So hold on to that as we come back to that thought. So we had this conversation and I said, yes, I'd be very interested. And he said, well, I'll get you together with the producer of the actual show, and we will meet you again here in Brussels. And so we did. We hit it off well. We talked about how we'd like to work together, our philosophies around shows and what we needed to do for the audience and where we wanted to go. I still didn't have any clue what I would do, because I wasn't thinking in this process anymore about creating shows. It was totally gone. But then one thing that happened, so I went back to Canada and I was sitting on the plane and I was thinking, what was the show going to be? and whether I would get it. But what would I do? I had no idea. And when I was sitting in an exit row, not 11A, don't mean anything with Air India, but this was a beautiful moment of where I was looking into the cabin in front of me, and the screen was playing movies and a variety of things. And up on the screen came the word energy. And all of a sudden, a light bulb went off in front of me, inside of me, fireworks went off inside of me. And I thought, that's it. Energy. The show is going to be called Energia. And I am going to take the work that I have done in energy management, and how can I transition and transform that into a multi-million-dollar touring show? And that was taking a signpost. So what happens with me, and what has happened a lot, when I have a project, all of a sudden my senses become very alive. And I start seeing things and feeling things and expressing things and all of this. And this leads to the opportunity, which is within you. Is that opportunity to find freshness inside of you, new pictures, new ideas, new thoughts. And then you start seeing outside. And you may see a sign, you may see a word, you may see a color, you may see an animal, you may see a person walking along the street with something on their t-shirt. And all of a sudden, something is an aha moment, and it twigs. And you say, that's a signpost for something further. And this is how I've worked much of my life, is seeing signposts and then opportunities which drove me to where I was in my life at that time. But moving to the next, and but before we do that, have you ever had this experience of where you've seen a signpost and it has led you further to explore, to find out, to experience what's behind that? I'd like to hear that in the chat if you've ever had this many times. Absolutely. Fantastic. So these signs are so important, and they come from the universe, they come from inside, they come from wherever you believe to be come from. Yes, wonderful. And then another story came about, which helps to unravel and to look at this area of opportunity. I happened to be in Paris, and I was starting my research for the nomadic mindset. And before, I asked a friend of mine, who actually was a client of mine, and he was in Morocco. And I said, I would love to know if you know anybody that could connect me to Berbers, because I would love to come to Morocco and to that. He said, I know an anthropologist, his specialty is in Berbers. He's lived with the Berbers. He has moved with the Berbers. He speaks Berber, and he would be an incredible contact. And so I thought, my God, this is amazing. Well, we happened to be in Paris at the same time, and he met me at the Grand Mosque in Paris, and we had mint tea. We sipped for 3 hours tea, and he just went on, and I've got a few questions in, but he just told me so much about the Berber culture. But he said to me a story which I love very much and I want to share with you, which leads us to this about opportunity in our lives. And that is, he said that it's when you go into the desert and you go on caravan and the night comes and you pitch the tent and you unload everything and you go to bed very early and it gets very chilly at night in the desert. He said you sleep early and you rise early. And you rise and you then, there's the sun, and you go and you sit on the highest of dunes where you can find. And you sit there and you watch. You look at the sky and you look at the clouds if there's any. You look at the sand. You look at the sand kernels, and you look at them and what is the form of them. You look and you see if you can see birds. And then you think, where is the rain? He said, because rain in the Sahara may come for a few drops every 3 years. But my camels, he says, they need to have food. So where will they get the food from? So I looked for the rain. And he said, what the Berbers do is they follow the rain. They follow the rain. And I love this very much, because following the rain is not about just following the rain for the opportunity, but it's looking at following the trends, you may think, in our today. It may be following the ideas, maybe following the signposts. This is following the rain. The poetry behind following the rain is beautiful, is it not? And so he spoke about the richness of this follow the rain, and that he said when you would go along in the caravan and you may meet another caravan, you would sit and you would have a very conversations with the family, and you would ask, how is the family doing? Where is the next place that you're going to go? Where is the market so that we can sell? You have this idea of where you're going. And then the last question usually is, where is the rain? We're following the rain. Where is it? And they have the conversation around this. But this is really about opportunity, following the opportunity. The rain is a place for you to go to seek the opportunity, which is mobility. So if you follow, you're moving. And this is a beautiful moment in my time of doing this, and it becomes a chapter in my book, and you may have read it because you got it the last time if you were here. But from the follow the rain, where does that take us? That takes us to signposts, as I mentioned. Is that signposts are everywhere along the road, and you may see, okay, this is a road, and there is the signpost of the 80 kilometers, but this is a signpost as well as everything else. There is a traditional signpost. But look for the non-traditional signposts along the way. That is following the rain, following the rain. And how do you get to following the rain? What's behind that? You said at the very beginning, curiosity. Absolutely. Curiosity is the real behavior to get us to following the rain and the opportunity. And along with that is listening. Listening, these are the senses, right? And these activities. But that's listening is not just a listening to outside. This is listening to your heart, listening to your inner intuition. It is listening to your mind. It is listening to everything around you. But it's also observing externally, observing what is within you and what's happening inside of you as you see these opportunities, these signposts, which are leading to something that is to be shaped. And that curiosity, as I said, is what is the grounding of that. I love this little lamb. This was out in the Sahara, and it was sitting in the tent with my host and also his wife and their one child, and they had a lot of sheep. And I asked this fellow who I was sitting in that, and I asked him, who had a lot of camels. So when you have a lot of camels, you have a lot of richness. That is the measurement. And he said, I used to live in Guelmim, and I have 3 houses in Guelmim, and I couldn't stand it because it is so noisy. And I couldn't see the great open spaces. And so that's why I live out in the desert, because I want to be free. I want to have these possibilities of opportunities, seeing things and exploring. And again, I thought, what does that say about us? What does it say about us as individuals? What does it say about teams? How can we bring our teams to seeing more opportunity? And in anything that is a possibility. So in any place that seems negative, the question is, what is the opportunity that we can get out of this? What is the opportunity? So from there, I think that there is a beautiful moment of understanding a story. So I'm going to share with you a story, the Nokia success story, Follow the Rain. And what happened during this story, success, opportunity to losing vision. And now I want to share with you a story that I got from my research. A fellow by the name of Mads Wilmer, Windblad. Mats Winblad, and he said to me that there was a beautiful story around Nokia. And he worked for Nokia from 1990 to 2010. So he was there during the heyday and the huge development. But let me share with you how these three mindsets are very important in organizations, in teams, so that we can look at when we are getting stuck and also when we're not following the rain. So apparently, Matt says, he said in 1990, the whole company transitioned. Before it was in lumber products, it was in plastics, it was in a variety of different areas of industry, which was not there and not in the telephony. And so what happened was they had a new CEO, and this new CEO had a grand vision. And this vision took us very much by storm and strength. And so by 1993, after they had moved away from all of the other businesses, they then went into the telephony. And telephony, they looked at telephones. They didn't have computer knowledge, but they had telephony knowledge. And so they worked with a variety of other companies, and they became very, very strong. In 1995, 1996, they started, and through the research and development, he said they started to work on smartphone, but they didn't call it smartphone. Then they called it multimedia. And this multimedia was the beginning of smartphones. So they went along developing this. And so they realized they needed to have other partners in this, which were really to deal with computers. And so they started to look at that. But they were as he said, the vision was very strong, and we were very nomadic. We were really developing phones, we were developing the business, we were developing the strategy, we were developing all sorts of things, but we were very nomadic. But he said by the time we got to 2000, he said something changed. He said all of a sudden we were the big players on the block. He said we were better than Ericsson, we were better than Mobile, there was another one there at that time, but I'm sure some of you remember. I may come back to it. But Ericsson was there, and he said we were so good and making so much money, and we were really scaling the business that all of a sudden we turned into turned into builders. And we first started to forget about the nomad. So the people that were in research and development were losing sight because the vision was completely changing and people didn't know what the vision was anymore. It had shifted. And I found this really interesting. He said, I don't know really the reason, but he said we were getting really fat cat syndrome. He said people were making huge bonuses. We were making tons of money. We were selling. And every time I would go somewhere, they would say, sell more, sell more. We got to keep selling more. We got to grow the business, grow the business, grow the business. And all along the way, there was still the R&D was working on this multimedia, but people had no vision as to where they were going. People were not integrated anymore. There was this building thinking. And so they went along until around 2003. And then they started to lose this whole focus completely around multimedia. And as we know, what happened then was in 2006, there was a new CEO that came in who was into finance. And he said, we are not going to do multimedia or smartphone. We are going to settle on our business. So they were settling on that business. And so what happened was there was a loss of vision. Let's just look at that again. And there was nomadic because of the really development. And then they got into builder, which is fine. But the nomad was beginning to get lost. And then they settled into the fat cat place of building. Now, if we look at that, and I asked him, he said, what we needed to do was to go back into nomadic so that we could revive all of this opportunity that was there. But as you know, in 2007, iPhone came out and Nokia started its major decline. And by the time it got to 2010, when Mads had left, there was the sailing off to Microsoft, and Microsoft sold it off again in 2013. And then where did Nokia go? And now Nokia is doing something else where they've become, they transformed again. And so they are not in telephony anymore. But you see, many companies go through this cycle of nomad, builder, settler. And often what happens is they settle too long. And they settle for that place of too much building, too much wealth, and so we don't need to develop any further. Kodak did the same thing, Blockbuster did the same thing, and many more companies are doing the same thing today. So what he said when I had shared, he said they didn't follow the rain anymore. They weren't following it. And this led to their demise. So if you're to think about your own organizations or your own business, are you really following the rain? Are you looking at the opportunities? My question. Thank you so much, Ericsson and Motorola. Motorola, thanks in the back. I'm really grateful. And so tell me what is happening? Do you see the value in understanding this nomadic builder and settler as the look at the transitioning within an organization or even your team? In your team, do you have too many builders and not enough settlers and not enough nomads? You need all. You need all. And therein that is the opportunity, is how do we put them all into the organization and how do we look for them is another question. That's another story, which we won't do today. But the point here that I'm getting at is opportunity is everywhere. And today, especially in the uncertain world, if we do not take the opportunity and look at uncertainty and go downwards and downwards and downwards, this uncertainty is where the land of learning is. This is where the discomfort is. And what athletes and performers would say, this is the land of learning. This is when I get better, is to go there because this is the opportunity. And I need to follow that rain. So I'm very grateful to see this. And I would like to know, give me one thought around this idea of looking at your organization or your team with these three mindsets in mind. What would you have to say on this? I'd love to hear what you have to say. Anyone popping into the chat. What do you think? What's coming up for you? Anything? Important to keep moving, don't settle. Be up to reinvent ourselves. Too many clouds, yes. Variety to a balanced team, yes. Absolutely, it's so important in the team. And to know when we need more nomads or more builders or teams. What would I find when I work? Yes, never settle for too long. A new opportunity to unsettle. Yes. You know, when I work with organizations and their teams and I take them on leadership journeys, this is one thing that we look at because most of them are full of builders. But in every one of us, we have nomad, builder, and settler in us, but we need to tap into that nomad every so often. And so that's what we do with the organization and the journeys that I take them on, is to tap into that and to be able to start listening to the language of movement, mobility, and following the rain, opportunity, curiosity, listening, observing, planning a strategy to pursue and succeed in opportunity. Check in. I am settling so much, too much. Yes, is to know this. Opportunities do not knock, they move. Yes. Planning the strategy, fantastic. All of these, it's great to hear all of this. A new opportunity to unsettle. Yes, fantastic. Wonderful. All right. So let us continue to move on. So from here, I share with you, I dare you to move into, to seek, to move and to seek the opportunities. So for this, I want to ask you, are you ready to unlock your map so your terrain is full of fresh opportunities? Are you ready to awaken the sense to spot hidden signposts? Are you ready to empower intentional curiosity towards this? May I have a show of hands, perhaps, if you're ready? If you're ready, yes, absolutely. Fantastic. Yay. Good, 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 good. This is excellent. So this is the opportunity for you, and that is that Job will put in my link to have an appointment with me. If you would like to have an appointment to see how this can help you and how perhaps I can help you in your organizations as well, is to bring this follow the rain opportunity, the nomadic mindset, this understanding of these three different mindsets, and to be able to follow the rain. So the opportunity is yours.